Hello everyone, we have to discuss about it is our test series 2020. So question number 61 कर रहे थे, which of the followings and are the zoonosis? Zoonosis किसके रिस्पेक्ट में होता है? किट स्वीन फ्लू के रिस्पेक्ट में, फिश टैंक एंड ग्रेनुलोमा के रिस्पेक्ट में, एंड क्यू फीवर्स के रिस्पेक्ट में. The cat scratch and fever, also the cold and catch scratch and diseases and CSD and is other bacterial infection and the diseases and gets and its name because the pupil contacted it is the froms and catch influenza and with and the Vartonella and the Hansela bacteria. Swine flu is and the infection caused by the viruses. Question number 62 and with references to the आयुष्मान भारत स्कीम कंसीडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट. आयुष्मान भारत स्कीम किसके रिस्पेक्ट में होती है? सी 1 एंड 2 के रिस्पेक्ट में. इट विल बी एंड द कवर एंड ओवर द 10 करोड़ एंड पुअर एंड द वनरेबल फैमिलीज जो रहती है, प्रोवाइडिंग करती कवरेज एंड फॉर द प्राइमरी एंड सेकेंडरी एंड टर्टरी केयर एंड हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन को, एंड इट एंड द प्रोवाइडेड अदर कवर एंड ऑफ एंड द रुपीज एंड 5 लाख एंड पर फैमिलीज एंड पर ईयर्स फॉर द medical treatment in the infanilate and the publics and the hospitals only. The center government and has and the decided to the provided and the free and the testing and the treatment of coronavirus under the Ayushman Bharat Yojana. Question number 63. Consider the following statement. Kerala and Karnataka and borders and issues and passes and question and on the restriction and relations and during the pandemic COVID-19. Articles 21 dining and the emergency and medicals and aid and the amount to other violations and of and the right to life and the liberty. Earlier the Kerala and governors and promulgate and the Kerala and epidemic and diseases of the ordinance 2020 and to the aims itself and with the extraordinary powers and to deal and with the pandemics and once and off and it's the closes and says and the state and can seals it and the border and for the such period is the necessary and while another empowers and to it to the restriction the duration of the essential or the emergency services including the health and food security and fuels. Question number 64. Which of the following is correctly matched? कौन सा correctly match है? COVID ज्ञान is the website and for and the scientific accurate and the COVID-19 related content and the launch and by the IISC and TIFR and the center and Tata Memorials and center and the others. Question number 65. With references to the compensations and case consider the following statement. किसके रिस्पेक्ट में ये केस है? It is other relief and for and the state and for the loss and of and the revenues and closing revenue arising from the implementation of the GST. It is the revival and only and on and the 5 production and considered and to be and the seen and on the luxury goods and the firstly and the collected and the comparison and cash flow into and the collaboration and fund of the India. Question number 66. The terms and the compulsory and the leasings and in the maintaining and in the which of the following and B which of the following Indian the Patient Act 1970. It is and the when the government allow the summons and the ills and to the produce other patient and produce or the process and without and the consent and of and the potential over owners and or and the plans and to the use of the patient and the protected and the inventions and the itself and it is either one and of and the flexibilities and in the field of the patient protection and include in the WTOs and the agreement on the intellectuals and the properties and the trials and related aspect of the intelligence prosperity right agreement. Question number 67. Which of the following statement is correctly matched? India is the bird and the third and the largest importers of the crude oils. India is the third and the bird and the third and largest and crude oil है and the further and largest importers of and the LPG, LNG. Question number 68. And United and of and the biodiversity and coalition has been the launch. Facebook पे तुम्हारे दो सींग होंगे. By other sea. European and the commissions. European Commissions and the EC and the launch and the United and the coalition and made and upon the Jews and the appreciation and the volunteer and the governors and the gardens and the national and parks and the nationals and the history and the science and the misses and from the around and the world and on and the world and wildlife and day 2020. Consider the following statement. C1 and 2. The Bal Gangadhar Tilak is in newspapers and Kesari and Head and the Christie's and Messrs and adopted and by other central by the government and to the tackle and the plug and the epidemic in Maharashtra and the Chepkar and the brothers and associated and the plug considered and the Pune and epidemic diseases. It is was the first and the drafted to the deal and with the Bibo, Bin and the Plux and the swapped and the Maharashtra in 1897. Question number 70. The mighty five countries is often and discuss करती हैं किसके कॉन्टेक्ट में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर्स के में Mighty Five or the MINTIN Five and is not the name of the new terms and of a new team of the superheroes and rather it is and the acronyms and for the malaria India, Malaysia and India and Thailand and Indonesia and Vietnam and five the nation and the predictions and to be the among and the 15 most and the competition and manufacturing countries and the world by the 2020. Question number 71. Which of the following the statement is are correct and the regarding and Jim Corbett National Park? Jim Corbett National Park किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहता है? It is the first and the national park in India. It is the named and after the British and the hunters and Jim and the Edward and Corbett. Jim or Corbett National Park and lies in the Nainital and districts of the Uttarakhand. Question number 72. The terms and the war meal bed is and sometimes seen in the news and with reference. किसकी news में reference है? See, it is and the indigenous and herbs and medicines and to the treat and the endo-parasite and worms and infections and among the livestocks. The National Innovations and Foundation India NIF जो है थी has developed की गई थी by the worm bedded and the indigenous herbal meditation in the forms of the commercial production for the livestock owners के द्वारा. Question number 73. Which of the following are correctly matched and regarding the bill of the leading BOL? On board BOL and the denotes and that and the merchandise and has been the physically and the loaded and on to either shipping vessels. On and the board and the bill and of the leadings and the denotes and that and the merchandise and has been the physical loaded and on to either shipping and vessels such either frightened and or the cargo planes. Question number 74 and with reference as to the new and the development bank and NDB and consider the following statement. NDB किसके respect में होती है? The bank and the bank was established by the SAARC countries के द्वारा की गई थी. The headquarters of the NBD and is located at New Delhi, India में. जो न्यू डेवलपमेंट बैंक एनडीबी वाज एस्टेब्लिश की गई थी इन जुलाई एंड 2015 में बाय द ब्रिक्स कंट्रीज एंड ब्राजील, रशिया एंड इंडिया, चाइना एंड साउथ अफ्रीका एंड इट इज हेडक्वार्टर शंघाई, चाइना में. क्वेश्चन नंबर 75 एंड विद रेफरेंस टू द प्लांट एंड माइक्रो एंड नीडल्स कंसीडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट. माइक्रो नूडल्स किसके रिस्पेक्ट में होता है? It is the used and to the treated and the diseases and that the effective the circulatory and system in plant and the cannot be the treated with the pesticide. Question number 76 and Sanji and the papers and art and was in news and recently it is the primary associated with which of the following and the state. So Uttar Pradesh. Consider the following statement with respect to the accelerating and growth of the new Indian innovation and Agni. New Indian innovation Agni किसके respect में होती है? All of above. Spears and headed and by other dedication and team under the principal and scientific advisors and to and the government of India and it is and the providers and support and to the government laboratories and for the commercializations of their the market and ready and the innovation Agni and only the expect innovation from and the companies and organization registered in India. Question number 78. Consider the following statement with respect to the country silicals and capitals buffer and CC by B किसके respect में रहती है? B1 and 2. The CC by B and is supported and 2B and the forms of the quality and capitals and according to the RBI and schedules and bank are the required करती to mention it in A. The CC by B of 1%. Question number 79. Hayat and Tehreer al-Sham was news recently. It is the primary operation. किसका सीरिया का primary operation है? Consider the following statement with respect to the Milk Tea Alliance. Milk Tea Alliance किसके respect में होती है? Neither one nor two. The informal terms and calling and by the social media users because in the reasons tea is other consumers and in and the many nation and with and the milk and with the conceptions of the China's countries and active and in this and the Hong Kong, Thailand and Taiwan. Question number 81. The terms one stops and the center and OSC and is sometimes seen in the news and with and the reference to It is the center to support and the women affected by the violence in private and the public space. Nirbhaya Fund and is the frameworks and provided for other known and the left civils and the corpus and fund and for the safety and the securities and often the women and to be and administered and by other by the Department of the Economic Affairs and DEN of and the Ministry of the Finance and MOF. Government of India consider the following statement किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहता है. World Meteorological and Organization and Maintenance and rotating and the list and of and the name and which are the appreciated for the each and tropical cyclone basin and tropical and cyclone can last and for other weeks and or and the more and therefore and there and can be and the more than and one and the cyclone at other time. WMO World and the Meteorological Organization mentioned it and the rotating and the list and of and the names and which were the associated and for the each and tropical cyclones and vaccines. Question number 83. Which of the following and the statement and is are the correct regarding the National and the Payment Corporation of India and NPCI? किसके रिस्पेक्ट में होती है? The 1 and 3. It is an and the umbrella and the organization for the operating retail and the payment and the statement and system in India and the payment and the PNP CIN has and the 10 core and the pro motor bank. The National Payment and Corporation of India NPCIN and the initiative of the Reserve Bank of India and the RBI and Indian and the Bank Association IBA. With references to the acceleration social and the health and the art activities ASHAs and consider the following statement किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहती है? She ASHA and will be and the trained and to and the work and as and the interfaces and between and the community and the public and health system and ASHA and must and the primary and be other women and the resistance of the village and preferably and in the gap groups of the 25 and 45 years. ASHA must primary and be other women and resistance of the village married and the widows and divorced and preferably in the age groups of the 25 and 45. Question number 85. Which of the following statement is correct and regarding the Malabar seal bed? किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहती है? This species is indigenous and to the western Ghats of India and they and the feed on the small animals and age of and the some vegetables and matter. List as the critically indigenous by the IUCN Red List of the thread and the species and these are likely feed on the small animals and ages and the some and vegetables matters. Consider the following statement with respect to the Kudai and the Codemate Gar. Kudai Codemate Gar किसके respect में होती है? Neither one nor two. The Kudai Khidamgar and was the non-violence movement against and the British corporations and of and the Indian and subcontinent and led and by the Abdul and the Ghaffar and Khan Ada. Pashtun and the freedom fighter in the north and western frontier provision. Question number C. Under the fiscal and the responsibility and the budget and management and FR and BM acted and the state are the mandated to the keep and there the fiscals. The fiscal responsibility and budget management FR and BM and acted and allow करता RBI and to the subscribes to the primary issues and of and the central government and security under the emergency situations. Consider the following statement with respect to the spotlight and the initiative. Spotlight initiative किसके respect में रहती है? It is the global and the multi-years and the partnership and between the European and Union and the United Nations and it is the arm and it and the elimination and of all and the forms and of and the violence against the women and girls. The Spotlight initiatives and is the global and the multi and the years and partnerships and between and the European Union and the United Nations and to the eliminated and all forms and of and the violence against women and girls. Question number 89 and generalize and the atrophy and index and which was in news and recently in the measures किसके inequality के में and the generally and the entropy and the index and has been the proposed and is other measures and of the income and the inequality in other population. Which of the following pairs are correctly matched? जो following pairs किसके correctly रहता है? टसल असम में रहता है. थ्रीसूर एंड पुराण रहती केरला में रहती है एंड मरु जत्रा एंड द फेस्टिवल उड़ीसा में रहता है. विथ रेफरेंसेस टू द अम्बुबाची एंड द मेलाज एंड कंसीडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहता है? इट इज द सेलिब्रेटेड वेन एंड द गोड रेस एंड द कामाख्या एंड द गोज एंड थुरुग एंड हर एंड द एनुअल्स एंड द साइकिल्स ऑफ द मेंट्रोसंस एंड Kamakhya and the temple is one of the prominent and the 51 and the Sakti and Pete and the Spirit and Cross and the South Asia. The Ambuvachi Mela celebrated in June and the yearly and year at the Kamakhya's and the temples and in and the Guwahati and during and which and the goddess is believed and to the go through the annual cycle of the manifestors. Question number 92, and which of the following and the statement part of the South and Asians and climates outlooks and forums and SASM कॉफ किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहता है? अफगानिस्तान एंड बांग्लादेश एंड म्यांमार. It is covered at the Afghanistan, Bhutan and Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal and Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Consider the following statement. C. Both 1 and 2. The method of the irrigation in which and the water is not and the transported by the national flow and but it is the lifted and with the pumps or the others and the mechanicals and means. The Kailashwaram and lift irrigation project is the world and the largest multi-large and lift irrigation project है. The lift irrigation project is the method of the irrigation in which and the waters and instead of being the transported by the national flow and as the gravity and the fed canals and systems and requirement and the external energies and the through and the annual fuel and based and or and the electronic and power using the pumps and or the other mechanical means. Question number 94. The terms and new and the umbrellas and the entile and the NUE and is and the sometimes and seen in the news and with reference to. It is the proposed and the digital and retail and payment and organization setup and the RBI and of India. With references to the national infrastructure pipeline and NIP, consider the following statement किसके respect में रहती है? D. It is and the investment plan and the unveiled and by other central government and for the enhancing instrument in the identified and sectors and for the period and of and the 5 years and from the 2020 and 25. It is include की गई थी and both the economic and the social infrastructure project and the funding of the NPI and will be and the jointly and made by the central and the state and the private and sectors. Question number 96. Which of the following and the pairs are correctly matched? किसके में correctly matched रहता है? And अगस्त्या बनाम and biologicals and park रहता है, केरला में रहता है, and दहिंग and पटकाई and the wildlife sanctuary असम में रहती है, tropical and butterfly and the conservatory रहती है, conservatory किसके में रहती है? तमिलनाडु के में. Question number 97. Consider the following statement with respect to the office of the principal and the scientific advisors. Scientific advisor किसके respect में रहता है? And the India has the head and the principal scientific advisor and PSA and the since 1999. And India has and had the principals and the scientifics and the advisors and PSA the since 1999. And Dr. APJ and the Abdul Kalam and was the first and the PSA and the first from and the 1990 and 2001. The Mekong rivers and does not and the flow and through the Malaysia. The rivers and the run and through the China's and the Myanmar's and the Laos and Thailand and Cambodia and Vietnam. And consider the following statement with respect to the monesticide and defeated. Monesticide defeated is and the monetary support and the Reserve Bank of the India and the RBI and expanded and to and the central and part of the government. The MUNOSCAs and is and the UN and the peace keepings and the missions are associated with which of the following countries? किसके respect Central African and Republic. It is the UN and the peak and the peace and keeping and the missions and with and the started and in and the April 10 and 2014 to protest and the Central and the African Republic and the Asian citizens and the under and the chapter 7 and of and the UN Charter. Which of the following and the organization and release and trade and the development and report and the TDR किसके respect में रहती है? UN the sea and trade के respect में रहती है. The United Nations Conference on the Trade and Development in statement is out the collect regarding on Y level and the ATM. Y level ATM किसके respect में रहता है? And B 1 and 3 के respect ATMs and setup and the owners and the operation and by and the known and bank entitled and are and the called and the white and levels ATMs and Tata and the launch and the first and while and the label ATM is under and the brand and off and the indicates. The ATM set up the owners and the operation and the non by the non-bank and the entitled are the called and the white and labels ATMs. Question number 103 with reference to the software technology park of the India and STPI. STPI consider the following statement किसके respect में है? STPI A. It is in the autonomous and the security and under the Ministry of the Electronic Information Technology. The main and objections and of and the STPI and is and the promotion of the software export and from the countries. Question number 104. Which of the following statement is are the correct regarding the आरोग्य सेतु ऐप किसके कॉन्टेक्ट में होता है? And two and the government has the launch and the app and in and the 11 different language and the mobile app and has been and the developed by the National and Information Center NIC. It is the the uses and GPS and the Bluetooth and the features and of and the smartphone and to track and the infections. Question number 105. Consider the following statement. Crater are the followed by and the outwards and the explosions and of the rock and the unders. Others and the material and from other volcano and various and the calderas and are and the formed and by the inverts and collapse of the volcano and the craters and are also and the usually and the much and smaller and then and the calders and only and the extending and to the minimums and of and the 1 and the kilometers and in the diagram. Question number 106. Which of the following countries is not a part of the लिवर मेकोंग एंड इनिशिएटिव LMI का पार्ट नहीं होता है? कौन सा पार्ट नहीं है? चाइना और इंडिया नहीं, बाकी यूनाइटेड नेशन है द LMI. द लिवर्स एंड मेकोंग इनिशिएटिव इज अदर इट इज अदर decade and long and partnership between the United Nations, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Thailand, Vietnam and to the advanced sustainable economic growth in regions. Question number 7. सस्टेनेबल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पार्टनरशिप SIP लॉन्च किया गया था किसके द्वारा? यूएन एनवायरमेंट के द्वारा. यूएन एनवायरमेंट लॉन्च द सस्टेनेबल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पार्टनरशिप इन 2018 में. क्वेश्चन नंबर 108 एंड 6+2+1 ग्रुप्स इज मेंशन किया गया था न्यूज में एंड रिसेंटली किसके इश्यूज है? पीस इन द अफगानिस्तान. 6+2+1 एंड ग्रुप्स एंड ऑन द रीजनल एफर्ट करता है टू द सपोर्ट पीस इन अफगानिस्तान में. इट इज द इंक्लूड एंड द 6 एंड नाइबरिंग एंड द कंट्रीज एंड चाइना, ईरान, पाकिस्तान, तजाकिस्तान एंड तुर्कमेनिस्तान एंड उज्बेकिस्तान and globals and players and the in the United States and the Russia and Afghanistan itself. Question number 109. The ozone and holes and the Arctic ozone layer is the closed and the primarily and due to किसके रिस्पेक्ट में रहता है? टू एंड द वेकेनिंग्स एंड ऑफ एंड द पोलर वोर्टेक्स के रिस्पेक्ट में. ओजोन एंड होल्स एंड द क्लोजिंग एंड वाज द बिकॉज एंड ऑफ एंड द फेनोमेनोस कट द पोलर एंड द वोर्टेक्स एंड आर एंड नॉट एंड बिकॉज ऑफ द रिडक्शन एंड